Wait.
You said you never would be mine. Come on and take a little precious time. Hey, there's nothing left to lose. Stand a minute in my shoes. Take a trip on the love train. Take a trip on the love train. Take a trip, take a trip, take a trip on the love train. Love train. Take a trip on the love train. Take a trip on the love train. Take a trip, take a trip, take a trip on the love train. Love train. Hey, you on a fancy freaky trip? Following my swaying hips. You'll never wanna change that way.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Tuesday with Perry, episode 115. I think so. It's 9:15 in the East Coast. So we're gonna get into a bunch of different stuff tonight. We're gonna start with the economy. And then we're going to get into the couple different things. The economy, Jesus. We're going to get into the central bank, Jerome Powell. And we're also going to get into a bunch of different things concerned with the one big beautiful bill and whether it's conservative enough, and whether we're going to delve into World War III. It is 6 months since Donald Trump has taken office, so we're going to delve into all those different things. So let's see if we can get Perry on the line. You have to excuse me here.
Not ready.
Not ready. He's not ready yet. So we're going to get into it in just a second. Let's get back to the music. All right. So we're going to talk about a few different things as we get into Tuesdays with Perry. You have to excuse me. I was arguing with a couple people about the economy and the extension regarding the economy. So let's see. Perry, are you there?
I am here.
All right. We're going to welcome Perry into the scene right now. What the fuck did I do here? All right, bro, are you ready?
I'm finally ready.
All right, let's get into it.
All right.
How are the ducks?
Well, it all depends. If you're a duck, it's miserable. If you're a drake, it's a holiday. The poor girls are getting gang raped, right? Because it's mating season. So that's the reason why we hear the quacking that you hear right now. That is, those are the female ducks. And the males, known as drakes, are the ones that sound like that guy. So little barnyard biology for all of your listeners. So
it's all good.
all right.
Everybody loves being self-sufficient. So let's get into the economy. You said we're not that just right, that we're dead balls on the point.
That was the first thing I wanted to cover.
All right, so you got 4 or 5 points. You got 45 minutes, so let's go.
Okay. So, I'm a very humble person and always willing to admit when I'm wrong, as much as it pains me. But boy, oh boy, the usual outcome of when I'm right, I just love spreading the gospel. And more than 6 months ago, before Donaldus Magnus took the oath of office for the second time, you and I kept trying to tell everyone in your listenership that help was on the way. Things were definitely going to get better, just not right away. And I said, you said on your daily, I concurred and emphasized further the point that, look, if by June we begin to see positive things happening, that's all we need, because by the time next June rolls around, meaning 2026, things are going to be white hot like they were in 2018, going into the midterm elections. Now, things didn't turn out in the midterms the way we wanted, and we don't have time to discuss all the reasons why, but a lot of it had to do with political gamemanship within the Republican Party. There was a lot of political sabotage, and that part of it had to do with Russiagate, because the media wouldn't shut up about that, and so we didn't get the results we wanted. This time is going to be different. And I say that because one of the other points I wanted to make tonight was how the Democrats, here we are, going into month 6 of Donaldus Magnus' second term, and they still can't find a way to right their ship. They are still off kilter, and they're going to continue to be off kilter because, number one, they don't have anyone as a bona fide leader that can step up and say, I know the way, follow me. They continue to demonize Republicans, Republicanism, free markets, and all the things that are starting to turn around. I don't want to make a big deal about egg prices having bottomed out, because you and I discussed this on more than one occasion in the first 3 months, and I said, but sometime between May and June, you're going to see the cost of eggs come down, because it takes that long for the next generation of chickens to start producing eggs. A chicken that's hatched on January 1st is going to take until at least May 1st before it pops out its first egg. Well, okay, guess what? They started popping out eggs last month. Notice how fast the prices started to bottom out.
No.
So that's just one example. The fact that it's back to drill, baby, drill. We're no longer paying, well, again, using me as an example. I can't speak for what it costs for a gallon of gas back home in Connecticut, because I don't live in that shithole state. But in Florida, for me to buy 1 gallon of premium gas for my behemoth, it was costing me a year and a half ago. It was costing me $4.40 a gallon. You know what I paid at the pumps at Costco today? $3.10. Okay. So, what's the number one cause for inflation? Fiscal policy.
Yep.
Before we go down that road, I just want to make that point. What's one of the best ways to start bringing the cost of manufacturing and distribution of manufactured goods and produce down? Best way to do that is to reduce the cost of transportation. How do you do that? It's all based on a gallon of diesel. Well, diesel's $1.50 a gallon cheaper, no matter what state you live in, than it was a year and a half ago. And it's $2.50 a gallon cheaper than it was 2.5 years ago. So all of this is happening because of the policies that Donald Trump and his cabinet are putting into position.
Indeed.
If you look at everything that Scott Bassett has been saying,
yep.
I have truly grown to love that man, because he will sit there and let Maggie run her mouth, and then he'll turn around and bitch slap her verbally. And it's such a wonderful thing to see, because he's an absolute gentleman in comparison to Donald Trump, who's a knuckle dragger. And everything that he's saying, everything that Howard is saying, everything that Marco is saying, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, things are finally turning around in this country. And it's happening right on cue with what you and I were saying 6 and 7 months ago. Not quite 7, but 6 months ago. It's happening. We have to continue to make it happen, because this is just the beginning. And moving on to the big, beautiful bill. Look, it is not what conservatives like me and libertarians like you want, but it's a lot better than what we have.
Hey! I'm a fiscal conservative. So.
Oh no, you are. But the difference between conservatives and libertarians has very little to do with fiscal policy.
Yeah.
It has to do with social policy. And we're not dramatically different, but there are nuances to the way conservatives and libertarians see social policy. So don't want to get off track here.
Right.
So getting back to the big, beautiful bill.
Right. Should we pass the bill?
Not as written. That's why I was saying a moment ago that it is not what conservatives and libertarians want, but it is going to be improved on. It is not going to be what we had hoped for, but that's okay, Rudy, because the point is, what does that do with regard to the economy? It tells Wall Street and it tells corporate America that this is the direction the federal government of the United States of America is going to embark on for the next 3.5 years. Having said that, with the extra billions and billions of dollars of tariff fees that are coming in, with the fact that more people are going back to work, the fact that we now have in excess of $12 trillion of guaranteed investment over the next 10 years, which breaks out to $1.2 trillion in private investment. This has nothing to do with government money. This is all private investment. That's what's going to grow the economy. That's what's going to create more good paying jobs, because we all know what's coming in 2030. You've done a marvelous job at explaining to your viewership just what we all need to prepare for. But the fact of the matter is, these next 3.5 years are going to, I don't want to say revolutionize. I think that's a little too much salesmanship for one night, but it is in the process of changing the direction this country was headed. And this great, big, beautiful aircraft carrier called the United States of America is doing a hairpin turn with 6 screws going 54,000 revolutions a minute, and it's turning around.
Yeah, that's a great analogy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you want to talk about Gaza. I know this is a wild card here. So
Yep.
give me your shit about Gaza and Israel. There's a lot of shit going on there. There's a lot of moving parts. There is certainly the thing about Iran. There's a lot of moving parts here. Give me your give me your take on that.
Well, my Israeli buddy just got back from his daughter's wedding in Tel Aviv last week. And we got together at our new favorite smoking lounge. I'm going to give him a plug because I love the owner, Larry Fagan of Holy Smokes Cigar and Wine Lounge over in the world famous Villages. And one of the first things I asked him, okay, look, what the fuck is going on with Gaza? And he really didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. And keep in mind, he's retired Israeli Special Forces. And even if he knew something that was classified, which I'm sure he doesn't, he wouldn't tell me. But he said that Israel's position, because Trump is back in the White House, is that we are going to continue this slow, methodical march to eliminate what remains of Hamas until the job is done. And I'm not happy about that. I've said before, and it's pretty much been confirmed by people throughout world media, that whatever hostages remain are no longer breathing the Lord's air. So if that's the case, why are we pussyfooting around here? Let's get the job done. Let's give the Palestinian people a reason to look forward to regaining some semblance of normalcy in their lives. And from that point, then the question's going to become, and this is something that I asked my buddy, look, is Israel prepared to financially and physically help put Gaza back together? And he said it's not up to Israel. It's up to the Arab League, the Arab nation. If they want Israel to be part of it, Israel is there to help. Look, they are prepared for there to be a bona fide Palestinian state someday. But it ain't going to be the one that has existed for the past 20 years. It's going to be something on the idea of what exists in Jordan, or to a much lesser extent, what exists in Lebanon, and even more reduced state of society, what's left of Syria. Why do I say those 3 examples? Because right now there is a tenuous peace that still exists between Israel and Syria. Supposedly, based on what little I have read, believe it or not, the Islamists that are now in control of Syria have expressed a desire to have an open border with Israel. What that's really going to mean, if it ever happens 5 years from now, it could turn into another Gaza. I don't know. But that's what they're saying. And I have to take them at their word. And so, having said that, I want the Palestinian people to be able to rebuild their lives. And if you look at what's going on inside Gaza, it is as clear as can be that Hamas has lost their grip. Now, they had an iron fist grip on the Palestinian people for the last 2 decades. Well, the Palestinian people are fed up. They're fed up because not only have they lost their homes, not only have they lost their businesses, not only have they lost their society, they have to depend on the Israelis and the Americans to feed them, because Hamas has been taking, for the past 8 to 12 months, has been taking all the UN food that has been supplied to feed all the Palestinian refugees in the camps, and saving it for themselves and distributing it to whomever they deem should be fed. So the average Palestinian said, I've had enough. So this is why Israel is moving the way it is.
Can I
Rudy,
interject here? And I want your comment on this. On my opinion, is that Gaza was originally part of Egypt, right?
correct.
Right, and that the Palestinian people were pushed into Gaza
Correct.
and that those people voted for Hamas, who I am very skeptical of. But my problem with Hamas is that I have a problem with that whole thing, is that the Palestinian people in Gaza, which is originally part of Egypt, and then they elected Hamas, and then that is like a no-winner. You know what I mean? It's just like they were very militant. They built tunnels, and they're going to resist Israel while they're occupying Egyptian land, traditionally Egyptian land. It just
Right.
it seems like a no-win for the Palestinians. It almost seems like they were driven into a no-win situation here.
Well,
And I know
there's
you
a
had
couple of
problems
things-
with this in the past, so I'd like you to work this out with me in my mind.
Well, there's several things that we have to do in order to get to the current state of the Palestinian people from a historical perspective.
Well, the
We have to go all the way
Palestinians
back.
and the Palestinians haven't had an autonomous nation for 1,000 years. Am I right or no?
Well, if you want to more than 1,000 years, if you want to go back to the Philistines, which are basically the Palestinian people of the Babylonian era.
Right.
So, in technically speaking, they've never had a homeland.
Right.
You know, the whole purpose of giving them, the 1947 two-state solution, the whole reason for that was to say to the Palestinians who wanted nothing to do with having to share a border with the Jews or share a small strip of desert land with the Jews. The whole purpose of a Palestinian state was so that they didn't have to live with Jews. They could live amongst themselves side by side with an independent Israel. The ones that did not want that two-state solution are now the great-grandchildren of those people who are fighting Israel today. It's never going to change. Is that all the Palestinian people? No. The Palestinian people are Arab people. What is one of the things that stands true in any Arab land, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Egypt or the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan? What's the one thing each one of these individual countries shares with each other? They have always, throughout history, not modern history, throughout history, been governed by a strong man. And you don't have to look any farther back than the 1950s with Nasser, who miscalculated in 1956 and was summarily wiped off the face of the earth by his own people for humiliating the Egyptian people by attacking Israel.
Yeah, he was the
Okay.
prime minister of Egypt or the president of Egypt.
Right.
Nasser.
Anwar Sadat learned his lesson. He saw that making peace, and if you read, I forgot the name of his book. You read his book. He said in the book, as an old man, seeing so much death and destruction of my own people in my own country, I grew tired or weary, I think he said, of constantly picking fights with the Israelis. I finally realized it was much better to make peace with the Israelis, because once I did that, my economy would improve, and with the economy improving, so will the lives of my people. And as an old man, that's what I thought was best. I was no longer, a young man with blood boiling, wanting to kill my so-called enemy. And of course, he was the polar opposite of his predecessor, Nasser. And so the Muslim Brotherhood took care of Sadat.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, and you can even talk about, although they're Persians are not to be confused with Arabs. You have the Persians, known as the Iranians. They were governed by a U.S. installed patriarch who was the Shah. Okay? Again, he controlled his country with an iron grip. All right? This is how Arab nations have always been governed or ruled throughout time immemorial.
All right.
So when you look at that and you get back...
The Persians aren't Arab.
I said that.
Yeah.
But they live in an Arab world.
Right.
Okay? And so therefore their governance is very similar to their Arab brethren. So if you look at all of that, and now you move back to the Hashemite, the Haman, which is what Hamas is, okay? Who has been governing them for the past 50 plus years, since 1973, before there was this attempt to make peace with Israel? Yasser Arafat.
Yeah, of course.
He was the strong man for the Palestinians. The problem was, as he got older, he, just like the Bidens, just like the Clintons, just like the Obamas, and for that matter, the Bushies, and Mitch, and every other fat slob that has stolen from the American people. Well, Yasser stole hundreds of millions of dollars of U.S. aid money that was supposed to go to the Palestinian cause, and ingratiated himself and made sure on his deathbed that his widow would live in a life of opulence in Europe. And I think she lived, I don't know if she's still alive, I think she is, lived the rest of her life in, I think it's France.
She was a hottie.
And so, oh yeah, when she was, what else is new?
She was the new Semiramis.
Why? Why should he have any less than any other Arab sheikh? So, I mean, he only had one wife. Look at what the royals have in Abu Dhabi or in Riyadh, okay? They have 10 wives, okay? I don't think on the ones that you actually can see the face of, I've never seen an ugly one.
Yeah.
So, having said that,
they have the opportunity to be rich, but the Palestinian question is very, very, very complex. And what do we do? What do we do? Obviously, I think Gaza and Hamas was a ploy. Gaza, first of all, is not Palestine; it's Egypt, and Hamas is just another extension of the PLO. The PLO says we're going to lay down our arms, and they're like, no, we're going to have Hamas now. We're going to have another militant faction. It seems...
Well, I was getting to that point.
All right, please. Please, because then I want to get to Ukraine too.
Okay, so Yasser Arafat is at the end of his life. His entire PLO is corrupt. All of his aides and supporters are almost as rich as he is. And it was the members or founders of Hamas that pointed this out to all the Palestinian people. And that's what started the civil war in 2006, 2008. I'm not sure on which year, but that's what started the civil war. And the schism ended with Fatah, which came out of the PLO, saying to Hamas, okay, you know what? You can keep Gaza. We're going to the West Bank, and we're going to govern the West Bank. You do whatever the fuck you want with Gaza. And so for the past 20 years, billions of dollars over the course of these 20 years that were supposed to go to build housing, to build factories, to create businesses, all that money that was supposed to go to the Palestinian people, Hamas has squandered on building bunkers and networks of tunnels. And they've done it for the purpose of furthering their goals, which will never be attained, which is the destruction of the state of Israel. That's the reason why their supporters here in the United States constantly scream from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Right.
That's what this is all about.
How does that happen? It's like the same thing with the rise of China. How does that happen? How does it happen? How is it allowed with all our, technical expertise and all our special operations and how does it happen? How does Hamas rise? For me, and I know you hate to hear this, it seems like Gaza, it seems like the militants were pushed to Gaza and they were allowed to elect Hamas because, the Palestinians of the West Bank elected Fatah. They were done. They were done with militarism. But Gaza, no, they elected Hamas. How does that happen? How does China rise? I hate to go back and forth, but how does China rise? We know that this is wrong, but still millions of dollars flow economically or in direct payments to Gaza or to China. How does this happen? And that we're supposed to be against something. How does this happen?
Well, for the purpose of expediting the conversation, it happens because, as you have so eloquently said, for the nearly 3 years that I've listened to your podcast, we have people not only inside our own government, not only the UN, but also the EU, who want this to happen. Now, we don't have time to discuss the details as to why they want all this mischievous nonsense to take place, but it doesn't happen by chance. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing. It happens because somebody metaphorically pulls or says, I want that trigger pulled, and someone else pulls the trigger. You could say it about the near fatal assassination attempt of Donaldus Magnus almost a year ago. You could say it about Vietnam. You can say it about 9/11. You can say it about 10/7. And as I have said on your show, I know as a fact why December 7th happened. It was because Roosevelt did not want to declare war on Germany because he promised the country, I am not going to get us involved in that war, meaning the European war. It wasn't called World War II yet. And so his henchmen set everything up so that the Japanese would be left with no option but to make the decision, the fatal decision, to take out our fleet at Pearl Harbor, because without control of the Pacific Rim countries, they would starve from a manufacturing standpoint, because our country cut them out of all the supplies of that part of the world. Just like China is doing right now with rare earth minerals.
Exactly.
We have watched, Rudy, you and I have watched for most of the last 20 years, but especially during Uncle Joe's administration, how country after country, whether it was in Africa, or it was in South America, or it was in the Pacific Rim, the Chinese have locked up rare earth minerals all around the world so that they can dictate to us what they're going to let us have, because they are going to use what they need first, and anything left over, yeah, come talk to us, and if we got some, we'll sell you some. And so that's what happened. That's what precipitated the attack on Pearl Harbor, because we left the Chinese no choice. History, I've said this before on your show,
Japanese.
History repeats itself. It's happening right now. The only way we can hopefully avoid a real war, because as you said, we're in fifth generational warfare right now with the Chinese. The only way we can avoid a military war with the Chinese is through the actions that Donald Trump has been taking since prior to taking the oath of office on January 20th.
Absolutely.
This is the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's inevitable. We're already in war. If people don't understand, we're already in war with the Chinese. People don't understand that. They're taking steps. They're at war. They consider us at war. They consider themselves at war with us. We need to...
Right.
And finally, Donald Trump is saying, we're at war with the Chinese. And he's not saying that, but he's doing it through trade policy. He's trying to be coy, and good for him. But then we have this other thing that I need you to deal with right now. I want your opinion on. We got 5 minutes. The shit that's going on in Ukraine now is about to blow up World War III. Somehow, the Ukrainians and all their prowess friggin' took out a third of the leg of the Russian nuclear triad. How does that happen without the West?
It does not happen at all. I'm just going to continue to give you the credit you deserve. You've been telling your audience now for the past 3.5 years since this war started. This does not happen without the aid, assistance, and delivery of American military might. Whether it is personnel, whether it is hardware or software. Our intelligence agencies have been guiding all of this. And what continues to irritate me, as a matter of fact, that was part of the conversation that we had around the fire pit this past weekend. I have befriended, he is a former United States congressman. He represented part of the East Coast, and he was a member of Congress for 14 years. He's one of us. He's a very intelligent individual, not because he's a Republican, but because he's conservative and very well educated with 2 doctorates. So I asked him, Bill, his name's not Bill. Bill, all right, so you're there for 14 years.
You're Bill.
Yeah.
Is it?
You were there for 14 years. Why did you leave? He said exactly what you and I have been saying. I was no longer allowed to be the representative of the people of my district. I was being told by party leaders, you will vote this way. I was being told by people who contributed a lot of money to my former campaign, my prior campaigns. We need you to vote this way, through lobbyists. And, I don't want to call him the Thomas Massey of his time, but he's probably the closest thing I can relate to Thomas Massey. And he said, I'd had enough. I wasn't going to sell my soul. And so now he fights not from within, but from without, on the outside, with the rest of us heathens who have said, we have all had enough. And he said on more than one occasion during the 5 hours we spent together that everything that Trump's doing is upsetting the apple cart. And while they may not be able to do anything about Trump while he's in office, he said the deep state knows he only has these 4 years to accomplish everything he wants to accomplish. So the goal is to use every other tool that they have at their beck and call, whether it is the media, whether it is the courts, whether it is fascist corporate America, regardless of what it is.
Right.
They will wait out Trump. So Trump knows why he has these 4 years to throw them out, or come 2030, as you've been saying. And so that is coming from someone who served in Congress for 14 years.
Oh, yeah. We know that he learned from his first term that I'm trying to fuck it up as much as I can in the first 2 years, because we're going to go into the midterms and who knows what's going to happen.
Well, we can say who knows right now because we don't, but this kind of segues right into the Democrats and how, they can't get their proverbial shit together.
Oh, they suck.
And
they suck so bad. I'm sorry. It's just so bad. It just is almost gleeful, but in the same turn, it's almost bizarre. But they keep going down. They keep doubling down on their same old shit. It's just.
Well, they keep
all right,
doubling down.
We got 2 minutes, so let's wrap it up. What do you got? What do you got about the Democrats? They fucking suck.
Well, not only do they suck, they don't know how to stop sucking. And as long as they continue with the shenanigans that they're trying to use, these are the tools of their trade that they have used against Republicans going all the way back to the Nixon administration. And they're still using it, even though the American people, hell, what the hell's the name of this guy that is the pollster for CNN? I mean, he's coming unglued
Lutz?
Every time.
Not Lutz.
No. Luntz hates this guy. He's a young guy. And he just announced, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, that just when the Democrats thought they couldn't go any lower, they just have.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the demographics, they're losing in every category. And they keep scratching their head and they don't understand why. And he said, until you stop demonizing your opponents and start saying to people who used to vote for you, this is what we are going to do if you give us the power to do it. They're not going to vote for you.
Right.
So what are the Republicans continuing to say? Everything they said during the campaign. Give us the power and you will have a better life because we will see to it.
Yep.
And so we're staying on message. And, you know, I have my doubts from time to time with the speaker, but God bless this man. He has managed to keep all these cats corralled.
Yeah, that's his job. He did his job.
Right. He did his job. And we got across the finish line with getting the bill passed. Now we have to come together. And I said back in January, I would love to see it happen in May. Well, technically it happened in May.
Yeah.
June 1st, but it happened in May.
Well, also, I'm sure they'll have a chance to fuck it up. My problem is, specifically with the Democrats, is the democratic process is about ballots. And they seem to undermine that process every chance they get. So they need to change the name of the party from the Democratic Party because they don't uphold democratic principles, not in their primaries, not in anything, not around the world. They don't uphold the democratic principles. As far as the Republic,
but
hold on,
Rudy, why don't they?
Hold on. Let me get one more thing in, and then I'm going to have you finish up. And as far as the Republicans is, we need to pass a fucking bill because we need to pass a bill to get the economy going. If we don't get the economy going, Rand Paul, we're not going to fucking pay down the fucking debt. We need to get the economy going to get the infrastructure to pay down the debt. And besides, as we've said, you and me said, tax breaks aren't expenditures, so they shouldn't be in the bill. So you're getting all confused. Thank
you for bringing that up.
Yeah, my point is we need to pass this bill. We need to get the economy going because if the economy isn't strong, we're never going to pay down any fucking debt. So
okay, they passed it out. Well, they passed it out of the House. They passed it out of the Senate right on the time I was hoping for, which was May. And now we have the whole month of June to make the sausage so that on July 4th, we have our second Independence Day.
Hopefully.
Well, they should be able to get it done because once that happens, all the wheels are set in motion. Tax revenue will continue to flood in. This is what scares the Democrats. They know that if this bill passes within the next 12 months between tariffs and the resurgence of American industrialism and American industrial might, you're going to see the second Gilded Age of America.
Wait till next.
And once that happens,
wait till next week when we get the inflation report. It's going to be crazy.
Correct.
Because what's Jerome Powell going to do then? So you have more comments on Democrats, and we're going to close it out.
So why you asked the question why? Because their party has been led by corrupt individuals. Not that the Republicans don't have their own corrupt leaders. We do. But the difference is for my entire 64 years of life, all I've ever heard from Democrats, and actually you can go back to my parents' hero, FDR. All the Democrats have ever said is, we care about you. Do you remember Bill Clinton in 1992? I feel your pain. That line has worked for 8, not 2, not 5, 8 generations of Americans. The Democrats, if you look at the CNN poll, up until this year, the Democrats always surpassed the Republicans when the question was asked, Who cares about you more, Republicans or Democrats? The Democrats always surpass the Republicans. Guess what? It's a dead heat this year. Times are changing. The Democrats haven't figured it out because all he keeps saying is the Republicans are evil. The Republicans are evil.
They're
yeah.
Nazis.
Okay. Well, right. Right. Exactly. Okay. They don't care about you. Well, that's funny because you know what? It was Donald Trump who lowered the price of the gas I'm pumping into my car. It was Donald Trump who brought the price of eggs down. Actually, it wasn't. But they think so. It's Donald Trump who's preaching peace, not war. Not Pocahontas from Massachusetts. She wants us to bomb Moscow. So these corrupt individuals who have been feeding at the trough of the American taxpayer for 50, 60 years. Okay? And who pointed that out? Oh, that's right. Elon Musk, the latest boogeyman of the left. Okay? 4.7 trillion with a T, not a B. $4.7 trillion that Doge has uncovered over the past, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 years, whatever it was, that the U.S. Treasury does not know where that money went, who got that money, or what that money was spent on. 4.7 trillion. Now imagine if we could get that money back and pay down the debt with that. That's exactly what's going to happen when this economy takes off over these next 12 months.
Yep.
You're going to see an explosion of tax revenue while people pay less in taxes. And who pointed that out to me? Who proved that to me? Oh, that's right. It was Ronaldus Magnus who in 1980 said, tax breaks are not just for the rich. A rising tide. He's the one who said it. A rising tide lifts all boats. And so when you give tax breaks to everyone, sure, the wealthy are going to benefit more in physical dollars, but everybody benefits. Who is it that's saying, I want to eliminate the IRS? It isn't Pocahontas. It isn't Princess Pelosi. It's Donaldus Magnus.
Yeah.
He wants to replace it with the, what is he calling it? The ERS? The
External,
OIS?
external
External,
revenue.
right. ERS.
Yeah, external revenue service.
Imagine what would happen for the average Joe Schmuckatelli like me or you if we could keep a minimum of 20% more of the money we work so hard to earn.
And we're a consumer society, so that consumerism will spread around the world with all our purchases. Which
is the reason why during this tariff war, our economy is not only surviving, it's benefiting.
Yeah.
And China is sinking.
Yeah, because the Chinese consumer is like, oh, things are bad, we're going to scale back. The American consumer, for all its foibles, they don't scale back.
Well,
they're like,
there's a reason why there is this old saying: in good times, people in this country, in good times, people drink. In bad times, we drink more.
And a consumer economy, in bad time, in good times we spend, in bad times we spend more. And so that's why the American economy, the consumer economy in America, can't be beat. Good luck, China, trying to find it somewhere else. So,
correct.
Thanks for joining me tonight, Perry. It's been great. We're gonna get together next week as well.
I'm counting on it.
All right, man. Great to talk to you.
All right. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for making the time available to me, Rudy. And let's do this again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, buddy. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There goes Perry. Episode 115 of Tuesdays with Perry. Yeah. Finally. It's been great. We're going to delve more into the Palestinian question next week. There's so much to cover this week. So, thanks for joining us tonight. Episode 115 of Tuesday with Perry. We will see y'all next week. Or join me, Rudy's Revolution, every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on Rumble. Peace out.
I'm an American. I have rights.